Hello, and we're on to another painting today. For a change, I thought I would use my WACOM tablet on Windows. Usually I do this style in Procreate on an iPad, but I wanted to try my Windows tablet, which is a WACOM Pro 22, which I bought not that long ago. It's awesome. It's too expensive, but it's awesome. And I wanted to see how it went doing roughly the same process as I do with Procreate in an app called Affinity Designer 2, which is really cool. I had Photoshop for many years. Obviously, I've been using Photoshop for like 30 years or something like that, but their dodgy practices are kind of bothering me now. So I wanted to get into something else, and I use Affinity Designer on the iPad a little bit, and I wanted to see what the Windows was like. It's okay, it's pretty good. It's very good in certain aspects. It's cool that you can switch between vectors and pixels. It's a little bit confusing sometimes when you're on the wrong one, but it's very good. It has a couple of problems, but everything does. So let's go with it. I kind of refuse to pay £50 a month or whatever it is for Photoshop. I'd quite like just to have Photoshop, which is nice. It is good, Photoshop, but I don't need 50 other apps I'm not interested in. Yeah, and I used to have, I'm ranting about Photoshop now anyway, but let's get back to this one. So it doesn't really matter which app you use, and this is why I wanted to make the video with me using Affinity Designer 2, to say it doesn't really matter. The concepts are the same. Procreate is very good because one simple thing is it has the color fill. So when I make the lasso shape or whatever, freeform or whatever you want to call it, when I make that shape in Procreate, it fills it in immediately, so it saves me a lot of time. I couldn't find that in this app, so it means I have to lasso and then switch to brush, fill that in, and then switch back to lasso. And it is a pain in the ass, there's no doubt about that. But one positive thing about that, though, is because I have to use the brush, I can kind of make variations in the shade of the color, the hue and whatnot, which is gonna make it slightly more varied than I would on the iPad because it's just flat colors. I don't think it's a huge difference, to be honest, and we can see later how this turns out. But yeah, there's some gradients there. You can see them already. Right now you can see the gradients in the grass and stuff like that. Obviously I could do that in Procreate too, but I generally don't do that because I like the color fill. And I had a nice comment the other day, a couple of days ago, where somebody said, "Oh yeah, I like the vector look," and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I like the vector look, but I don't like to use vectors because they're so boring. I don't know if you've tried vectors, but my God, I mean, it's like engineering, which is fine. If you do it for a job or whatever and you got 40 hours a week to do it, but if you don't and you're a normal person, it's just too slow and it's just not that interesting. But I like the vector look. I like the reason I paint like this is because I like the clean lines. I like sharp lines. I like to make everything I do with my brush to actually be a decision. I'm also a programmer in my day job, so decisions is basically what you do. So it's very binary. That's the nature of the job. So it kind of filters into this. The way I paint is like I like to make decisions, and they like to be A or B, and I was like, it can be this or it can be this. And you need to be able to do that, or I need to be able to do that very quickly. Otherwise, I start to question what I'm doing. So anything that kind of gets in my way is a problem. The tools, the app, the touchscreen or whatever, and this WACOM is amazing. And maybe I'll do a review on this thing, but it's basically perfect. I'm really lucky to have it. And the stuff I get to draw with is super cool. But I mean, without the thoughts and the ideas, the tools are almost irrelevant anyway. So, pencil and paper would be better if you're amazing. So that is what it is. But so anyway, I haven't really talked about what I'm doing here. I'm rambling. I'll talk about what I'm doing. What I wanted to do with this painting, there was a simple remit from my mind, was to make a waterfall. So I think I mentioned this quite a while ago, but when you have a waterfall, you need somewhere for it to come from. So you have to have a cliff of some sort. So usually I paint, well, not usually, sometimes I paint mountains and paths and things like that. And I'm quite used to that. So I don't really need too much inspiration there because I've done it so many times. But for these ones, it's a little bit more tricky for me because I'm not used to doing paintings that are kind of like 100 meters or something like that. I'm usually like 1,000 meters. So with these, I tell you how I get inspiration from these is I generate a bunch of images using AI. I don't use the images. I don't really look at them. I just create like 50 of them, and I just look at them and try and understand what's going on, and then I put them away. So I don't really look at them or copy them or anything like that, but I use them to give me an idea of what things should look like, perspective and stuff like that. But I know AI is a tricky subject, so I'm not really going to go there right now, but it can be very, very useful to give you ideas of what to do, because you put in a couple of prompts and you get weird stuff back, which is great. So yeah, let's not go there, but it gave me a couple of ideas of how to present or come up with a simple composition, and then I can do what I want. So I kind of so basically it showed me where the foreground was and the midground and the background. And you have to do that every time. So I'll say right now, I don't actually like this painting. Again, I think I said that before, but I don't like this painting. It didn't kind of turn out right, but I think it's probably good to talk about, because you can learn. I think I probably learn more from the failures than the ones that go well. Of course, if you nail everything, what's the point? I mean, obviously you don't nail everything, but you think you do. So it's like, what are you going to learn from that is not a lot. I'm not entirely sure what I don't like about it. It's just I don't even know. Maybe it's just because I'm not using my iPad and I'm not using Procreate. So I didn't really like it from the start. It was difficult to use a different app. So I think I was kind of biased that I wasn't going to like it anyway. But you have to get through that. You have to push through that if you want to learn. So you have to use things you don't like to learn something. You have to swap tools. I mean, I could have just done another one on my iPad and I would have blasted through in 30 minutes and it would have gone great. But there's a good chance I wouldn't have learned much. So we need to, step out of the box, as they say, and do something different. So it's quite nice that we got a totally different environment in Windows. Well, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have, 2 tablets. But even then, if you don't, use pen and paper, or, paint with watercolors or something, change it up. And that's where you get the most growth. The most growth for me is changing completely, and sometimes I paint other things. I don't post them on YouTube, but I do other things like, I'll paint a portrait or something like that just to mix it up. And that portrait actually makes me a better landscape painter, which is absolutely crazy, to be honest. You wouldn't actually think that, but it definitely does. Because, you'll draw a nose or something like that, which are generally a nightmare to draw, but you'll do that and you'll think, yeah, I could use that for rocks or something like that. So yeah, it's all about form and lighting and values and composition, etc. And it always helps to get a different perspective on things. And if you keep on doing the same thing over and over, you will plateau at a certain point. And that goes for pretty much any hobby, to be honest, not just painting, obviously. I try to learn a broad spectrum of things, mostly not related to painting. So yeah, let's get back to this painting that I'm watching. I'm watching it right now. I'm not actually painting it. I'm talking over it. I try to paint and talk at the same time, and it's really difficult. So maybe one day. So one thing really cool about Affinity Designer is you can get non-destructive adjustments. Although it turns out I quite like to have destructive adjustments anyway. And you can right click and you can rasterize them, which basically means they've gone to, it's committed, which is kind of a strange term, but you've committed your change. And I stopped committing my changes actually after a while. I'm used to painting on a few layers, so I have like 20 in this or something, which is unusual for me. Because I did mostly a lot of learning in acrylics, where there's only one layer basically. Well, not quite true, when it dries you get another layer, it dries you get another layer. So it's not quite like that, but you can't go back. So I mean, it's like you do another layer and it merges down. You do another layer and it merges down. So you only get like a temporary layer. So anyway, the point is they got non-destructive HSL, I think it's called. I can't read it, but I think it's hue, saturation, and light, maybe. Yeah, I don't know about the L. I guess maybe it's light. And that I couldn't paint without those, to be honest, because, well, I mean, I could, but I have no idea what I'd come up with. Because I'm not really paying attention to my colors a lot of times. Most of the time, I'm just painting in value. I might talk about value in depth at some point, but it is absolutely key to everything is value, and color is not that important. It's emotive. Let me rewind. It's very important, but if you have bad value, color will not fix it. So you have to get good value. And what that means is basically a difference between light and dark. And it takes a long time to be able to see value properly. And when I started painting, I couldn't really see value. I couldn't even understand it's like light, dark. When it's black and white, it's easy. And I still get values wrong all the time. So to say I can see it now and it's easy, no, it's not. I get it wrong all the time. There's a simple fact that our brains cannot comprehend value properly when you add color to it. If it's black and white, we can see it easily. But as soon as you add color, it messes with us and we can't see it properly. So there is that. There should always be. There's a cool app on the iPad called Art Studio, I think it's called. I might be wrong. Might need to double check that. I think it's called Art Studio, and it has a little reference panel you can add that shows you your painting. Well, what's cool is you can mirror it and turn it to black and white. Maybe Affinity Designer 2 has this too. I'm only just getting into this now, so I don't know this app that well. I'm only just coming from Photoshop for 30 years. You'd think I'm stuck in my ways and I would never leave Photoshop, but the practices are so bad. You're like, no, we gotta ditch these guys. You know, start supporting somebody else. So bad. Anyway, I'm not gonna go there again. So let's get back to this painting. I'm rambling, but my process is the same. It is very simple, and that's kind of the point. It's lasso. That doesn't even make sense. Lasso. I don't know. I don't even know what it's called. You know what I mean. The selection tool thing, and it's nice on Affinity, so it's good. I wish it would just autofill, but I'm kind of glad that it doesn't autofill because it kind of makes me paint again a little bit. So I have to use the brush. And the thing is, I have to use the brush, then I might as well put some color variation in. So that's pretty cool. And I don't do that in Procreate because I can just color fill and I don't need to bother. But anyway, I think this is coming to an end, so I need to shut up. Again, I'm just tweaking the colors right at the end to get kind of what I like. Yeah, this one was a tough one. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I can do some more damage next time. Thanks.